Hey everybody, and welcome to Database Camp. My name is Sarah, and in today's video I wanted to talk about a book called Conspicuous in His Absence by Chloe T. Sun. This work is a theological study into what the two religious books, Song of Songs and Esther, reveal about the nature of God. In order to make her analysis into the themes and messages present in these religious texts, Chloe T. Sun cites various other authors whose work contains similar subject matter to that of her book. This book would probably serve the reader best if a Christian or Jewish Bible was close at hand, since she also cites lines within those holy scriptures. The author studies these two books specifically because although they may be religious texts, they lack a prerequisite of most religious texts, which is the acknowledgement of God. Song of Songs and Esther do not reference God's name. There are authors who have studied the story of Esther and this theme, but Song of Songs is not given the same kind of attention, even though it too has this same theme. Chloe T. Sun makes sure to include these two works equally, and compares the similarities and differences between the two. A main difference being the genre. Song of Songs is considered to be lyric love poetry, a tale or parable about two lovers who long to be together. Esther is narrative prose, which some have interpreted as a historical novella or a farce that tells the story of a Jewish orphan girl who becomes a Persian queen and subsequently saves her people from annihilation. Through her studies, the author makes sure to make note of how these two books are interpreted differently in Christianity versus Judaism. For some reason, many Christian religions, if not all, seem to dismiss or avoid speaking about Esther and Song of Songs, which is a shame because ultimately the lessons within are lost. But Judaism is the exact opposite. Song of Songs and Esther are celebrated quite literally, actually. They are recited during two Jewish festivals. Esther is recited during Purim, while Song of Songs is recited during Passover. The author finds this arrangement rather curious that the two books, which lack the name of God, would be recited back to back since Purim precedes Passover. Throughout her book, Chloe T. Sun examines what Song of Songs and Esther are meant to teach us. So I've been ruminating over this book for the past 2 months, probably. And it's one that I definitely wanted to spend a lot of time with. Ultimately, I ended up consumed by this book, really, and in the best way possible. At the time that I was reading the book, I didn't really feel like I needed it exactly in that moment, but it was the type of book that I knew I would need in the future. This book is very hard to give any sort of concrete review because ultimately your opinion of it is going to be swayed whether you are a believer or you're a non-believer. You're either going to rate it highly or poorly based on your belief or lack thereof. So it's very difficult to actually call this video a review. But I still wanted to talk about it because I feel like it's a very important book. I feel like it's one that a lot of people need. Whether you're a Christian, Jewish, if you used to participate in one of those religions and now you're kind of just soured toward it for whatever reason, I feel like this book would help you. I say those two religions specifically because Esther and Song of Songs, which are included in Jewish teachings and as well as Christian teachings. That's why I am referring to those two religions specifically. Now, the reason why I feel like this book will help and can help people is because, at least from what I gathered while reading the book, these two books, Song of Songs and Esther, are meant to help us cope with our modern relationships with God. You know, in the Bible, we see God being a present player. And a lot of people learn about the stories, the biblical stories, and they see God as a present player. They see him actually being a part of human life. And it's very difficult for people to learn about that God and understand why we don't have that same God in our lives now. A lot of people feel like God is absent in their lives. A lot of people feel abandoned by God, that he's not listening, or he's not acting in their lives, or he's not speaking to them in this direct manner. And Esther is meant to teach, at least for me, Esther is sort of meant to teach people what a modern relationship with God looks like. That although he may not be this direct player, he still could be working behind the scenes in ways that are very difficult to interpret, but are very real. And Song of Songs, in a lot of ways, could be viewed as our own relationship with God. How we long to be with him. We long to have him in our lives. And he does too. And just because we cannot be together, it doesn't mean that that love is not there, or that the care is not there. I find this work so important. I find it so helpful. And I feel like a lot of people, if they read this book, might find it helpful as well.